What up guys, Mayen here with another video. In this video, I am gonna go over how I picked the best audio mixer for my home studio. All right guys, let's get to it. All right, so the first thing that I did an analysis on what I actually needed, because as you guys can see, I have some gear here and I just wanted to make sure that all the things that I had were going to work with the mixers that I was going to get. I went ahead, and kind of like tallied how many outputs each one of my machines had. So I had the analog 4, digitone, and Minilog modular synthesizer right over here, sub 37 and everything. So I was like, okay, so I need to figure out those outputs first. For the analog 4, I have one output, the same for the digitone. Most of my synthesizers have one output, which equals to one input on a mixer. But then you have something like the analog rhythm where I'm actually using 4 outputs because I do like separating those sounds by itself. So that was kind of interesting, and also the octave track as well. So that pretty much gave me a total of 14 outputs, right? So obviously I couldn't go for an 8-channel mixer because it didn't make any sense. So I was like, okay, so I have 14. It gives me the ability to expand, a little bit more, if in case I wanted to input a couple of other synths or whatnot. So I was like, okay, so 16 should give me enough flexibility, right? So that was the first thing. I needed at least a 16-channel mixer. Okay, so then after that, I started researching, okay, do I want to go digital or do I want to go analog, and what are the differences? One thing that was key for me, it was the fact that I wanted to make it as simple as possible for me when I started to make music, right? One of the reasons why I wanted to get a mixer in the first place was because I honestly hated the fact that I needed to have my computer on in order to start jamming. Having a computer on in my head equals, okay, I can browse Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and all this other stuff. So it took my attention away from making music. So that was one of the reasons why I decided to just kill the computer just because I was wasting too much time with that. The other thing for me was, okay, the ease of use, right? Doing the research and everything, the differences between the digital and an analog. One thing that was clear to me, even though digital might sound interesting, having to dive into settings and all this other stuff, just it was kind of the same idea of okay, having to dive into menus and all of that. So it would take away my ideas as I was getting into that creative flow. So with an analog mixer, all the channels are pretty much the same, right? You had your EQ, and then you have your auxiliaries where you can actually route sound and everything. So I was like, okay, that sounds kind of interesting. The other thing for me, right, if I look at my setup, I do have pedals that I want to use. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't have to unplug different pedals, plug them back into another synth to make sure that everything was sounding good. I could just run, the auxiliaries just how I would do it in Logic, for instance. So based on that, I was like, okay, I think the analog mixer sounds really, really interesting for me. The other thing is I wanted something that I was able to do direct outputs, right? The reason why I wanted direct outputs is because I'm going to be mixing here, but I also want to be able to record to my system. Once I have something cool, the jam session sounding good, I want to record it in. So each individual output just gives me that flexibility. All of that goes directly into my audio interface, and then from there, I'm able to record and do post editing and all this other stuff, right? So as I was doing my research, I came across this video from DJ Rock Z. The great thing about it is he was pretty honest. He was reviewing a Personas one where the direct outputs, all the EQs and everything didn't go post fader. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. It's interesting because then you can do all the edits, whatever you want on your DAW. But for my case, I was like, it would be really cool to actually be able to just EQ and do a couple of things here and there in the mixer right away and just record it, right? Instead of it having to be something where I would have to do all the process in the box again. So I was like, okay, now that makes sense. So then I started researching, okay, what mixers would give me the ability to do a post fader direct output, right? So I started researching, and it turns out that the mixer that I came up with, is the Mix Wizard from Allen&Heath, and that one you actually do have to like flip some switches inside the mixer, but it's nothing crazy that you cannot do yourself, right? To make it so like all the different channels are post fader, and you're able to like record that in. And then the other thing, right, being able to like just move faders and like record and like do EQing and everything just made it super streamlined and simple. And that's kind of like what I've been going for in my studio, is like, how can I make music where I don't have to like be like, okay, like my computer's not working, or like this is not working, or am I losing track of like time and all this other stuff. So that was one of the things, right? With a flip of a switch from my Cranbourne audio, I'm able to like just go into my system, which is amazing, right? The other thing, using the 500 series modules, those things, are really cool. So I'm able to like send direct outs to the actual like preamps and everything that I have there, and record them directly into my system, which is pretty cool. Is that they're using buzzes, right? So if I'm gonna be using like pedals and all this other stuff, I have the Zoya like right here, and I want to be able to like use that one, but test it out with the Digitone, or test it out with the Analog 4, or with the modular and all this other stuff. So this gives me the flexibility of not having to like switch things around. And the other cool thing, right, is that it does have like its own effects unit if you want to use that. That was kind of like the main reason why I decided to go for a Mix Wizard. The other thing, which is pretty cool about this one, is the fact that you can actually like buy audio interface to make it USB, so you can actually record directly from here to your system, which is pretty cool. It's about like, I think it's like $400. So yeah, I already had the equipment, so I didn't need that, but in case later on I want to do that, that's an option. The other thing, right, about this mixer that I really like is the fact that you can find them for half price maybe on eBay or Reverb. I actually got this one for half the price, and it also included like a traveling case, which was pretty amazing. That's how I came up with the best audio mixer for my studio, guys. Basic knowledge from my point of view is like, check out your gear first, what you need, what you want, see, test around. But if you're looking to record music and make it, so like you can do like full-on tracks, you might want to get a mixer that you're able to do direct outputs to, because it's gonna simplify the process, right? You're gonna be able to like record everything individually. All right, guys, hopefully this was useful, and yeah, I hope you have a good weekend. Peace.